What's going on, guys? It's Jamil. So let's just jump right into it. This is my story of ayahuasca. For anybody that doesn't know, I have been doing psychedelics for the last 8 years, and I started doing psychedelics with the plan of eventually doing ayahuasca. So really, the reason why I'm doing this video is this closes a chapter in my life of this part of my journey into psychedelics to, let's say, complement my spiritual path. And I learned about ayahuasca at a silent meditation retreat, a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And on the 10th day, we could start talking again, and all the dudes talking about the different things they've done, and ayahuasca was brought up. And as soon as I heard the word ayahuasca, I was like, yo, I gotta try that. I don't even know what it is yet. They started explaining what it was. And I was like, yo, I want to do it. I want to try it. And they all kind of stopped and were like, you know what? You should probably, have you done anything else yet? I was like, no. So, okay, you should probably do shrooms first. You probably try to look into some acid, stuff like that. So I spent the last 8 years, like I said at the beginning, doing mushrooms and doing acid. Now, I'm not saying I do it frequently. I would say in the last, if this was my eighth psychedelic experience, which I think it was, then I've done one psychedelic experience per year, average. Sometimes it was two a year, and then I skip a year or whatever. But, these things, they might be easy to find for people that are always in that type of community. But that's not where I spend most of my time. I spend most of my time doing other things. So now that I've done ayahuasca, like I said, it's a closing of a chapter of my journey. Let me talk about my spiritual background a little bit. I am a 5%er. I'm also an Awo of Ifa, which basically just means a student of Ifa. Most people know what the 5% Nation is, the Nation of Gods and Earths. Not a lot of people might know, but Ifa is. Ifa is a traditional spiritual practice from Nigeria that has been continued on by the Yoruba people. But we do believe that is much older than when those people became known as the Yoruba people. There is a type of practice that is similar to Ifa in pretty much all Western African countries. So Benin has a version of it. The Congo has a version of it. I can't remember off the top of my head the other one that I know for sure off the top of my head. And very similar to what we find in Egypt, what some people like to call Kemet, and what we find in the I Ching of China. So Ifa, without going too deep into it, it has a lot to do with ancestor veneration and the veneration of certain energies that we call orishas. Now, I say all that to say, psychedelics to me are a complement to whatever spiritual walk you're on. A lot of people like negate psychedelics as like a shortcut or something. I tend to call those people salesmen. I tend to call those people that want to keep you following them for the next 50 years, keep you buying their tapes, buying their books, following their path, them telling you what you should do before they finally reveal to you who you really are. And I believe that everybody deserves the right to just know who they are. And psychedelics are a way to do that. Also, anybody that negates the legitimacy of psychedelics, there are theories that human beings gain consciousness among the other primates by accidentally eating psychedelics. So there's a whole group of people out there in the scientific community and other communities that believe that we gained our consciousness from psychedelics. So since nobody can really pinpoint a moment in time when human beings became conscious amongst other primates, that theory technically is as good as any other theory. So that just means historically, psychedelics have played a part in the development, literally the spiritual conscious development of human beings for a lot of people. And a lot of cultures across the world that have access to psychedelics, that have been using psychedelics in their medicines, like ayahuasca in the Latin Americas. There's Iboga in Africa. There's a few other ones. I'm not trying to go way too deep, but for the cultures and the communities that have had psychedelics to empower their spiritual journeys, right? Who are you to say that that is not as legitimate as, say, meditating for 50 years on a mountain? What if there were no psychedelics there? Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't say one thing is right, one thing is wrong. It's just really about you. It's really about your personal journey. It's really about what calls out to you. If it doesn't call out to you, don't do it. If it does call out to you, go search for it, because it's calling back out to you. You know what I'm saying? If it calls out to you, what I'm trying to say is, if you're seeking it, it is seeking you. So move forward, and it will come to you when it's your time. All right. So I did my ayahuasca journey with somebody I know, without going into too much detail, because there are still some legal lines that we are crossing with this. Somebody close to me, some people that we're both close to, and then two people that I didn't know at all. This was interesting to me because I do all my psychedelics by myself. So with ayahuasca, going into ayahuasca, knowing I was going to be doing with a group of people, knowing I didn't know who was going to be there, I was like, okay, Jamil, this is your moment to deal with your social anxieties and your social awkwardnesses that I project onto myself. As far as everybody tells me about myself, I project those things onto myself. So, went in. There's a lot of things that lead up into the ceremony, but let's just say we get started with the drinking of the ayahuasca. We all share about the same amount of ayahuasca. At first, I couldn't really lay down, go to sleep, but when it started hitting me, I just immediately hit the bed, hit the pillow. And the first thing that happened was what a lot of people talk about on the internet, so I'm going to lead with it. A lot of people talk about on the internet the colors and the shapes and the patterns and possibly even other dimensions and beings and celestial beings and things of that nature. Let's just say my first run through with ayahuasca knocked all that shit out. You know what I'm saying? My patterns were mostly African in nature. I saw mostly patterns that I would consider African in nature. Even down, if anybody knows the book Anansi the Spider, just imagine the different spiders of that book, all kind of like on top of each other. That's an African book. And all just kind of like spreading out all across each other. That even happened at one point in time, different colors, different things. A lot of different colors, a lot of different patterns, oozing patterns, maybe even call them tentacle-like patterns. Got to a place where I saw some things that resembled Hindu paintings, but it wasn't something that I've necessarily seen before, something that resembled something, if that makes sense. And when I got there, I was like, oh, this is what my main man, hold on a second. Joseph Campbell is a writer who is how you say it, a researcher of mythology. So in a lot of his research of mythology, how he explains mythology is that all these different artworks that we see from different cultures, spiritual cultures, and things like that write out their myths, all the different artwork that we see from the different cultures that draw out their myths, like you would say Hindu artwork or Aztec artwork or things like that. These are all images that are already a part of each of our consciousness. They're images that exist in the unconscious mind of all beings, because we're all connected to the unconscious mind of the universe. Okay, let's get that out of the way. So the different communities, cultures, and tribes throughout history that brought forth these images, right? They were tapping into something that exists within all of us. So it comes down to, if I saw this image, was this because I've seen it externally and then my mind was reproducing it, or did I get there for myself to see it for myself? In this case, I saw it for myself. That is my belief, that I saw it for myself. Because it wasn't picture perfect. It wasn't artwork perfect. It was, I'm seeing it. Okay? And what I believe for myself, from my studies of people like this, so I studied this guy, I study mythology on my own, study this guy, I study psychology, I study neuroscience. All these things come together for me in my experience, my psychedelic experiences. So why I believe that it was, like I said, why I believe I saw it, seeing it for myself, was because if I was going to take what I saw and then try to recreate it for you, of course, I would make it more artistic. Of course, I'll make it more picture perfect. Of course, I would add these fine little details to kind of get the point across of what I saw. Right? And that's what all myths do. So I explained that really well right now. So I'm gonna leave that there for now. After that first little trip, I got brought back out of my trip, and everybody were talking, we were doing different things. So like I said, I went into this to deal with my social anxieties. So partially. There's another big reason why I did it, but partially for on surface level things, I wanted to deal with my social anxieties, my social awkwardnesses. So there was one guy there that I wasn't sure of. Okay, not that I didn't like him here or there, just wasn't sure. I didn't know him. So I started asking him questions about his life, and I really wanted to get underneath the different things that he was putting on the surface. Now, in this space, it was my job to be on the experience too. But the way that I operate, like I told you, I study psychology, I study neuroscience, I study spirituality. All these things kind of connect for me. I'm a Capricorn. We tend to like leadership roles. So I tend to to myself as a leader, right? So he didn't ask me to try to guide him through his experience, but I was just trying to help him just bring some stuff that was under there out, because that's what we're there for, right? Trying to ask him questions about his life. I won't go into too many details. That's his life. I won't be sharing that on the internet. But we got to some things where I was like, okay, those are the things. These are the things that I was like, okay, I'm feeling a vibe. I'm not sure about this guy yet, but these are the things. So we started talking about those things, and we started getting into those things. I will say that he did say, man, you're going to make me emotional. And I was like, it's all good, man. That's what we're here for. Now, again, I set myself in that role to do that. He didn't ask me to do that. Nobody asked me to do that. And that's why I feel socially awkward, because I think that way. So when I'm trying to just have real connections with people, I also tend to psychoanalyze them, which then leads me to try to lead them to somewhere. And I don't consider myself a manipulative person, but that is a form of manipulation. And I just want to say that I want to use my manipulative powers for good, for the benefit of people. Try to connect with people, try to make them feel good, try to make people, just try to make people feel good. And at the same time, connect with people and build real relationships with people. The other young lady there that I didn't know, there was a moment when I was asking him questions, I just said, hey, look, guys, am I overpowering the conversation? Because I got to a point where I was like asking you questions, asking you questions, asking you questions. And then that's when I get to a place where like, yeah, you're actually really all interesting people, all really interesting people, but I'm talking a lot. Even though they're doing most of the talking, I felt like I was doing most of the talking, and that made me feel awkward. So I just asked. So this is why I do things like this. So in these moments, when we're all on the same experience, we're all on the same drug, we're all doing the same thing, it's a little more of a safe place to ask awkward questions that you wouldn't necessarily ask in normal social environments. So to ask in a normal social environment, hey, am I overpowering the conversation? Am I talking too much? That would come off as socially, like, why would you, like, you know what I'm saying? But in this situation, I'm like, look, it's a safe place. I'm going to tell you guys this is how I feel. I feel sometimes I'm socially awkward. So I have a hard time connecting with people and relating to people. So I just want to know, am I overpowering? I'm asking us all these questions because I'm seriously interested, but am I overpowering the conversation? The young lady said no. It was after we started talking about zodiac signs. Turns out she's a Taurus, but I shifted the conversation away from her. Now, there's a reason why I shifted the conversation away from her, but let's just say I shifted the conversation away from her. But in that moment, I felt like, oof, that was I kind of negged her. I didn't mean to neg her. I kind of negged her, but I didn't mean to. So anyway, she came, I brought that up to bring this up. She came back around and was like, you just need to let the ayahuasca take over and have the experience. And like, maybe she said, shut up or stop worrying about it, or kind of just let it happen. Whatever. But she went real bull on me. She went real Taurus on me. So like the fact that she was a Taurus and the fact that she went that way with me, like it really resonated because I knew that she was a Taurus. Anyway. Okay. So those are kind of some things like, me dealing with my social anxieties, me dealing with seeing the patterns, the shapes and stuff. That's all the normal stuff that people talk about, like those types of things. So something that happened for me was that I channeled 3 of my ancestors and 1 of somebody else's living relatives. And after the experience, I had to look it up, and you can channel living relatives. So it wasn't so weird. It wasn't made up. It was like, okay, cool. Why is this important? So I've been having psychic experiences since I was about 20 years old. So my main intention of going into ayahuasca was this. I need to accept that I have psychic powers. Because I wasn't always fond of it, because it would happen randomly. So I could never control it. So the intention is accept that I have the powers and accept that I can use them at will to the benefit of myself and the benefit of those that I choose. So the fact that I became a channel that night, not only for my own family, but for somebody else's family, was true to my intention that I set. That was my overarching intention. I had other smaller intentions, but that was my overarching intention. And having those experiences legitimized the setting of my intention. Let's just say that. I'm trying to watch my words. I don't want to give you guys way too much. I don't want to give you guys too little. I just want to be able to give people my experience in an honest way without influencing anybody that might want to have a similar experience. So, yes, you will get patterns, visions. Yes, you will open up to people. You might even be one of those people like me that try to get people to open up. I don't know if you'll have psychic experiences. I can't speak to that. Maybe that's not part of your journey. Maybe that's not part of your path. But if you set your intention, your intentions will come through. They will come through. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Even all my other smaller intentions came through. I had 4 servings. I had 4 servings of ayahuasca. So 3, and then I snuck one when everybody else went to sleep. Sorry to the shaman. Mine lasted 12 hours when it should last 4 to 8 hours. But I took so much. So I wasn't even the one that took the most either. Somebody else took more than me, and we went in. So in the days following, one of my smaller intentions was to quit smoking Black and Milds. I started smoking Black and Milds again after my recent divorce, and I hadn't smoked in 10 years. So I've been smoking for 3 months now, and trying to kick it. I was like, I got back on it. Stress got me. Trying to kick it. The first day after I smoked, and I was like, what the hell, man? I set this intention. But then what I ended up doing was thinking, okay, what is happening to me while I'm smoking? And I realized that I get really tired when I smoke. So it's like, oh, this stuff is tiring me out. And then guess what I do? I go buy coffee or I go buy an energy drink or whatever. Man, so I'm trying to balance out all this tiredness that this smoking is getting me with this false energy when I could just not smoke and have my natural energy. And once I realized that, then I quit smoking on my own. But it's because of the ayahuasca experience that I was able to have enough mental space to come to that conclusion. So this is what people think. People think that psychedelics, if you take a psychedelic, your mind is all over the place and you're tripping out and you're out of control, okay? I can't speak for everybody, but for me, since I have ADHD, let's see, I have ADHD, I study psychology, I study neuroscience, I study spirituality, I study music, I play guitar, I play bass, I mix, I master, record, all these things, you know what I'm saying, that I do, right? For me, it slows it all down. It brings my mind to a place of wide openness. I'm trying to get as far down into my unconscious as I can. Like I was talking about earlier with Joseph Campbell, that those images that come out of these spiritual groups, they're all images that exist deep within the recesses of our own minds. So if I can get deep into that level of the mind, then that means I can actually see behind my own thoughts, see behind my own fears, see behind my own everything, and kind of go, well, now I want to work on this. Let's work on this now. 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 Without it all just clashing like it does all day, pretty much all day, every day. Pretty much all day, every day, all my thoughts are just going, blah, 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 driving me crazy. And so after an experience like this, feeling the calmness afterwards, too, is a big benefit, because I don't usually feel this calmness when it comes with shrooms and acid and things like that. This level of calmness, this level of clarity is something that I've only felt with ayahuasca. So I think I've wrapped up everything a little bit out of the order that I wanted to, but maybe that's exactly how it should have been said, because everything happens for a reason. So thank you for tuning in to my ayahuasca story. My name is Jamil once again. Peace and peace.